this. Okay, cool. So, all right, this is 161. Has anyone here looked at the Moodle page yet? Okay, I only just opened it up, so if you were looking for it earlier today, and you're like, where is it? It's because I only just opened it up. But if you go there, you're going to find like nothing there. All Moodle is going to have is a link to where the course content actually is, and a place to submit assignments. Moodle's only really going to be used for where you submit your assignments, okay? If you're wondering, well, where is the course content? That's really easy. You just open up your browser and go CSCI161.com. There you go. It's right there. It will redirect, but that's how you get to the course content. If you can remember the course number, 161, CSCI 161, you're good to go. Cool? Cool. So this is going to be where all our content is, all right? I'm Professor Hughes. You know, like you found today's lecture at least. There's the lectures. Here's the lecture lab sections. Does everyone know what lab section they're in? Does anyone not know what lab section they're in? You know what? You don't even need to know the number. Just do you know if it's your lab Thursday or Friday? If you don't know, find out. Because labs start this week, meaning labs start tomorrow. Every year, someone will not make it to the first lab and be like, well, my math prof said it didn't start till next week. That's for your math class. This class starts tomorrow, if you have the Thursday lab. Or Friday, if you have the Friday lab. Now, if you have the Thursday lab tomorrow, we're going to get a little bit ahead of ourselves because we'll only have today's lecture under our belt. But we'll figure it out. It won't be a big problem. Office hours, 10 to 11, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday in my office. Please come visit. Happy to chat. Here's the course notes. We will be going through this. These are all the main topics we're covering. And here are the labs. There's the 12 labs that we're also going to be covering in lab. Here are the assignments. You will notice on the course website no due dates are set. Same with Moodle. There's no deadline on Moodle yet. You could submit them now, but all of the all of the assignment description and what you're going to need to do for your assignments are already right there. You can go, if you wanted to start right now, you can if you want. By all means, more power to you. How to get set up for 161, we will do that shortly. And then the course outline. Does anyone have any questions before I continue? Hopefully a lot of the questions that you do have will get answered right like today as we go through the outline. But of course, if you have more questions, please ask. In general in this course, I find it really boring if you don't ask questions. One of the worst things, and this has been a growing phenomenon, one of the worst things you can do, let me pause. How many of you are actually first-year students? Okay, cool. So, one of the worst things you can do in lecture is, and this was never a problem. I swear, 5 years ago, this wasn't a problem. I'd be lecturing, and I could always kind of see on people's faces, like they're kind of like, you know, like looking, nodding along, right? You get a sense of if they're understanding what's happening. People are asking questions. You get a gauge of like what's going on. But in the past little bit, I've noticed something where students stopped asking questions for some reason, and everyone just stares at me like this. And I have no idea. It's like, does everyone understand what I'm doing, or do you have no idea what I'm doing? If no one's saying anything, I'm going to assume you get it, but then like, I don't know what's going on. It needs to go like back and forth for me to get a sense of like how it's going. And ask questions. Please ask questions. I know everyone gets a little weirded out asking questions because like, oh, you know, did I just miss something? If I ask this, is it going to look stupid or something? 9 times out of 10, it's always the same. I've been doing this long enough. I know what happens. 9 times out of 10, if you're sitting there with a question, but you're thinking, I don't really want to ask it though, chances are half of the class is sitting there thinking the exact same thing. If you have a question, chances are half the people in the room have the exact same question. The number of times what happens where after a lecture, I'll have like 6 different people come up to me being like, hey, what about whatever, like this question about lecture that we talked about. And then the next person asks the exact same question, then the exact same question, then the exact same question. It's just a lot easier if you just ask the question in lecture so we can address it there for everybody. If you ask the question, you're doing everyone a favor by asking the question. Please ask the questions. I love answering questions. It makes it a lot more interesting for me. Otherwise, I'm just sitting here talking at you and it's boring. Course description. So again, we assume you know nothing. Okay? We are going to start with nothing. We assume you've got some amount of computer literacy in the sense that you can navigate your computer, but you don't need to know anything about programming or anything. The less you know, the better, I always say. And the reason I say that is people with experience because we assume you know nothing, we start very elementary, but it moves quickly. But if you think like, I know this already, I don't really need, I just whatever, I'll just start paying attention when new stuff happens. Yeah, you're screwed. Because the new stuff will kind of sneak in pretty quickly. I want to make sure everyone succeeds. So just make sure you stay on top of it, okay? Yeah, so what are we going to do? Intro to computer algorithms and programming. We assume you know nothing. Computer science is a really broad category. Intro to programming is really teaching you the bare basics. They're not trivial, I'm going to warn you. It's not easy. It's not hard, but it's not trivial, that's for sure. And we're going to teach you all of these elementary things. And then who here is taking 162? Okay? And in 162, that's when we start to get into like some more like the real stuff, right? All of this is real. I want to be 100% clear. But, when 162 starts, that's the class that comes after this one. When 162 starts, we're starting with, okay, you know what you're doing, right? Where in this class, we start with like the very basics. So when you already know a little bit, we can start to solve more interesting and fun problems where we do the best we can here. Students tend to love this course. They have a lot of fun with it, but I always think 162 is even more fun. So raise your hand if you're not in 162. Okay, so my goal this semester is to convince you to take 162. So hopefully you have enough fun in 161 that you'll want to be here for 162. All right, cool. We're going to cover things like basic programming skills. You're going to learn about like problem analysis, algorithm development, data representation, control structures, lists, yada, yada, yada. There's a lot of jargon that's all going to make perfect sense to you by the time we get to the end of the semester. Prerequisites, nothing. You just have to be here, okay? I'm Dr. Hughes. My annex is in the annex, or my office is in the annex, which is that building right there, right? And I'm in the basement. That's where they hide the computer scientists. Lecture time you found today, and then we've got Tuesday, Friday as well. Lab sections, we have a Thursday one and a Friday one. They're 2:30 to like 4:30 on those days. And they will be in this room, okay? You will notice that this room has computers in front of you. But has anyone logged into them? A couple people have. If you log into it, you might find it looks a little funny. It's because it's using a Linux operating system, Ubuntu, which is really nice, especially for programming, but you might not be that familiar with it. It's not too hard to use. If you show up to class with your own laptops to follow along, awesome. If you don't want to do that and you just want to sit and take paper notes, cool. If you want to use log into these computers and follow along, great. Whatever you want, whatever you're comfortable with, okay? Office hours website, this website. Moodle, again, just for submitting assignments effectively. Textbook, there is no like hard textbook, but there's like a free textbook. You click the link right here. Probably the best part, like, look, my course notes you'll see are clearly like more in depth than like slides that you might be used to in other courses, but it's not like a full textbook, right? It's kind of somewhere in between. My notes really aren't a substitute for like the textbook. So if there's like a topic you like, okay, we covered lists, but I want to know a little more, just go down to like the topic in here, you go through this and you're good to go. Probably one of the best and underused features of the textbook is like for any particular topic, if you scroll down, now some of these you'll be like, they're like drawing with turtle graphics or whatever they call them. Okay, we're not doing that. But, so you skip those parts. But one of the better things, maybe this was a bad example, let's say conditions. One of the best features of each of the textbook is these exercises, practice. The only way to get good at programming is practice. Practice, 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 practice. It's one of those skills that if I talk it at you, it'll never click until you do it. You could sit down and watch literally every single piano tutorial on YouTube, but unless you sit down in front of the piano and play, you're never going to figure it out, right? And it would be absurd to expect that. So the only way to get good at this is practice, and there's some practice. The assignments are practice. Labs are practice. Caddis is practice. We'll talk about that later. Practice, 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 you'll be a pro. The students that do go through these exercises, they demolish this class. Topics, so like we're going to talk about like variables, statements, types, functions, testing, conditions, booleans, yada, yada, yada. We're going to cover all these things. Here is the mark breakdown. For assignments, 5% each, okay? Lecture and lab activities, I'll explain these shortly. That's worth 10% of your final grade. Test 1, test 2. This will be like on a Wednesday, early October, and ish, plus or minus. I haven't set the date yet. And test 2, it'll be like early mid-November-ish as well. Okay, we have 2 tests, 10% each, and then a final 50%. Don't let this scare you. I know you might not be used to seeing something like that. My tests, I'm really good at writing tests or creating tests. What I do is, if the way I write my test, like I don't do that nonsense where like, well, I try to like really challenge you and whatnot, see how much you really know. My tests are designed in a way where, first of all, their tests are 50, 60, 70% of your final grade, okay? So I'm not trying to screw you. My tests are designed such that if you know what you're doing, and I don't mean like you need to be an expert, but if you have like the base understanding that I want you to have, you could easily get perfect on these tests. They should be easy. These tests are easy for the people that have been following along. And the best part is they are impossible for people that don't know what they're doing. So they're great. If you just stay on top of it, these will be easy, 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 easy peasy for you. Okay? Okay, assignment submissions. There's the course, if you click on like the assignment, there's a full description on what to do. Read the assignments, it like tells you what to do. A lot of like hints and tips and details in there that are really valuable, so make sure you read it in full. Due dates. Due dates are, and due time is when they say they are. No lates are accepted. If it's due at 11:55 and you submit at 11:56, is it on time or not? No. Is it going to get marked? No. And don't test this. The answer is no. I do not accept lates. Every year, people don't believe me, and they're like, I'm going to complain to the dean. And I go, say hi to Joe. I don't know, like, the dean's going to be like, why are you telling me this? It's in on time or not. And you might say, why? It's unethical to accept late assignments, and here's why. First of all, let's say you submit it 1 minute late, and someone submits it 5 minutes late. Do I accept both of them? It's kind of not fair. Maybe what about an hour late, right? What about 2 hours late? Where's this imaginary new cutoff line that I have to come up with? You know what? Let's just keep that imaginary line not imaginary, and let's just stick it at 11:55 where I say it is. And here's also why. Let's say you are someone who is following the instructions. And you know, if you had like 20 more minutes, maybe you really could finish that assignment perfectly. Which, by the way, if you're starting your assignments early enough, this is a non-issue. But let's say you need like 20 more minutes, but you know, it's 11:50 and you're like, crap, I got to submit it as is, whatever. I'm not going to let it get late. And then someone else is like, screw it, I'm going to take that extra half hour and submit it late because he'll mark it anyways. Well, that's not fair to the person who followed the instruction. That's unethical. That's absurd for me to, like, that would be so unfair. So we're sticking with the due date as it says. No lates accepted, no ifs, ands, or buts. That's it. It's easy. And the best part is you don't need to guess when that magic cutoff really is. It says when it is. Marking will be done by a TA. What I like to, the assignments are already available. You could start them whenever you wanted, really. But when I set a due date, I'll let you know. And I like to set a due date at least 2 weeks ahead. So that's always my target. Maybe I miss it a little bit, but so you'll have fair enough warning. Yeah, and so the TA marks it. If there's an issue, whatever with the marking, if you got a question, please ask. The TA is really good. They give really good feedback. Read the feedback. Yeah, tests. Yeah, there's tests. You don't cheat on tests. If you miss a test, that's fine. If you're unable to write a test, the weight of the test will be added to the following test or final, whatever, however it works, right? So if you miss the first test, okay, don't even worry about getting accommodation. Just write the second test, and your second test will be worth 20% automatically. I don't need to do anything special, okay? If you miss the first 2 tests, well, then your final exam is worth 70%, okay? Right, great. All right? So it's fine. That's just how it's going to work. There's no makeup test as a result for a missed test. It's just, you just don't write the test, and then your weight is shifted to the next one. So it's easy for everybody. Labs start this week. Not next week. I don't care what's happening in your psych class or math class. Labs start this week. That means tomorrow and Friday. Lab procedures. Usually I've got these pre-lab exercises. You should do them beforehand to make sure you kind of have some context for what you're doing in the lab. Then there's the meat of what you're doing in the lab, It's like the regular part. And then after that's all done, that's the core part of the lab that I want you to do. That'll have like very explicit things in there from like lecture that I want you to know to reinforce. And then once that's all done, I've got like a series of Caddis problems. Caddis is this website full of a whole bunch of like programming problems for you to like play around with to get practice with. And I have like suggested problems for you to work through. By the way, in lab, I want you talking to each other. I want you working together. This room should be loud during lab. It's what I want, okay? If you show up and you just want to work by yourself, more power to you, but you're kind of missing the point of having like a good lab like this in a nice space like this. Lecture activities. So every once in a while, we will have a lecture activity. When we have them, I don't have it set, because really what I do is I say like if the point of the lecture activity is when there's like, let's say we covered a topic in lecture or lab that I'm like, this is a really key topic and I really want to make sure it's like really enforced. We'll do a lecture activity. It usually takes place near the end of the lecture. I give you like 5 minutes to do something. You're allowed to work together. I want you to work together. And the question's going to be related to like what we just did. And usually like they should be easy for you. Okay, they really should be trivial for you to do. But when they are, it's ad hoc. It's whenever I'm like, yeah, we should have one for this topic. So it's whenever I feel like it. Basically, someone once is like, so it's like a pop quiz. No, you're allowed to work together. For all I care, someone can come up and write the solution on the board and everyone copies. I don't care, right? Just you're supposed to work together. It's designed to be easy. You can use the course website, what we just talked about, to solve the problem. So yeah, the date and time. These activities will take place in lecture or lab. Questions will be related to important concepts covered. Answers must be written legibly by hand on a clean A4 letter-sized piece of paper. That's a regular piece of paper. No half papers. Those get lost all the time. If papers are ripped out of those like bound ones, those frayed edges, papers get stuck in them. It causes all these problems. It's got to be a nice, clean sheet of paper. I am not giving you the paper. You got to have your own. All submissions must include your name, student number, email address, and date. All submissions must be made by the student completing the task. I know this sounds silly, but it's important. Everyone in here submits their own. If, let's say, you are like, oh, I'm going to submit it, and you're like, hey, can you hand mine in too? No, absolutely not. Everyone submits their own. If anyone submits more than one at a time, we're in big trouble. And I'm going to get academic misconduct after you, and I'm going to submit it. And you're going to get 0 on all lecture activities. Not just that one, that whole thing. 10% on your final grade gone. Don't worry, it's easy not to violate this. Just don't submit anyone else's. If anyone in here has a mobility, if you break your leg, wave me down, I'll get it from you. Just don't hand in anybody else's, and don't let anyone else hand yours in. Don't. And I will also have a deadline for each of them, which will be like the end of the lecture. And if it's in on time, great. If it's not, bye. I'm not marking it. But don't worry, it should be easy. Okay, that's the idea. Email, you can email me, office hours. Come to office hours. Email's great, but I'm going to warn you, email is terrible for like programming questions. It's fine if the question is like high level, like, hey, this concept, whatever, right? I can try my best to like answer it. But when there's like, oh, here's a chunk of code that's not working, I can't do that, right? It's not going to work. That's not a way to talk about it. Those are like absolutely come to office hours. Happy to have that chat. Email for those types, it never works because they take forever to answer, and 9 times out of the 10, I reply and they're like, oh, I already figured it out. All right, so office hours. Office hours, I said the times. Come to office hours, love to have you. Have a blast there. Attendance is mandatory, copyright policy. I own everything in this course content unless stated otherwise. Lecture recording, you can't record me, but don't worry, I record myself. So no pictures, no recording, but if you needed to record me, don't worry, I'm recording right now. And I post all of my recordings to YouTube, okay? And there's a link on the main page to like the YouTube channel, and I will record everyone and then put in the playlist like Fall 2025 161, and each lecture will be there. That's what it is. That's like backup for you and whatever. Also, previous year's recordings are there too if you want to look at them for whatever reason as well. Okay, don't cheat. We'll check. And boilerplate stuff. Cool. Any questions about any of that? Yes?
What did you say the link was again? For the YouTube?
YouTube, I think it's on the main page. Let's double check. Oh, not there. Yeah, right here, YouTube, yeah. Be sure to like and subscribe. What's up?
Where do we access the information you were just talking about?
That is the course out. If you scroll down to like the bottom, by the way, your website will probably look like this. I'm just zoomed in. It's down here, the outline.
Oh, okay.
And scroll at the bottom.
That's
That's the CSCI.com, which redirects to, sometimes this happens because it's not HTTPS. You can usually say like just go, it's a static website, of course. This is Squarespace. Squarespace is being stupid. Here, let's just, it really is Squarespace's fault because they inherited, it was a whole thing. It really is, but hopefully whatever. CSCI 161 should direct you here. Yeah?
Do you have to email you to come to your office hours?
No, just it's pop in. Now, if you wanted to like if for whatever reason all those like scheduled times like you really can't make it and you want it, like we could schedule a special one. You do not need to email beforehand. Just show up to office hours, happy to chat. Lately, office hours are poorly attended, so chances are you're not going to have a lineup of people ahead of you. But I would rather have a lineup of people because people should utilize office hours. It should be obvious. Like this course website's phenomenal. The labs are great. The recordings are there. Office hours. Like I want you to have all the resources possible to succeed. Just make sure you use them. Okay. Yeah. Other questions? Happy to have them right now. I don't know why that lecture is not working or that projector is not working. It usually is. So for those of you who are facing that way, it's kind of annoying right now because you have to crank your neck, but whatever. So if you're sitting there, by the way, by all means look at me, but your screen's right there, so you don't have to crank your neck. It's just right there. All right. Last chance for questions. That's not true at all, but any questions before I click the first topic? All right. Intro. What will I learn? How to program. Long version, read the outline. Okay. So activity. You'll notice in the lecture I'll have like some activities. Some of them are like fluffy. So like we'll do this really quick. But like, have you ever encountered a computer program before? Obviously. Right? Obviously. Like you navigate these things all the time throughout your life, whether you even realize it or not. So like let's do a quick thing here. Who here is like, yes, I want to do computer science? Raise your hand. Like that's what your major is going to be. Okay, really high. I want to see. You're not sure? All right, we'll convince you. Yeah, but high. Okay, so a number of you. Okay, cool. So how many of you are doing like math? Right? Cool. How many of you are doing like chemistry? We don't have any chem right now? How about biology? Nope. Okay, bio. Couple bio. Physics, any physics students? Nice, good. Physics students. Earth science? Earth science, 1? Really? And a half? 1.5? Okay, cool. Any other sciences I missed? No? So then the rest of you, so raise your hand if you're in like business. Okay, a couple people in business. Good, maybe a little, yeah. Business, okay. So raise your hand if you didn't raise your hand yet. So what are you in?
Human kinetics.
HKIN, cool, yeah.
I'm just doing a BA with psych, but I always found this stuff pretty interesting.
Good. Hopefully I can convince you to do more of this.
I'm in arts. I'm just doing development studies.
Development, cool. All right, awesome. So some of you said CS, but a lot of people didn't. Other things. Great. These skills that you're going to learn are going to be helpful everywhere. Now let's address the elephant in the room right now. Generative AI, right? People will say like, well, I mean like, is AI really going to replace like programmers and whatnot? Look, people have been saying that's going to be happening for a long time. And maybe it will one day. I don't know. I can't predict the future, right? So if you're sitting here going like, is this going to be a useless skill in a week because of generative AI or something? I don't know. What do I know, right? My gut tells me, though, it's not. In the same way that, YouTube came along and made creating content and distributing content really easy. I mean, you can learn how to make content on YouTube, then you can post it on YouTube. You can make it, you can figure it out. all of this software that people use to make YouTube videos and whatnot is so accessible now. Anyone could do it if they really wanted to, right? But YouTube didn't destroy the film industry or anything, right? But what it did do is it gave the tools to everybody else to give everyone the ability to create the most interesting content. And how many of you just have some YouTubers you freaking love? Or people on Twitch, right? Like, exactly. That tool, like those tools allowed for more interesting things to come about. And that's my guess is what's going to happen with these tools. The generative AI, like ChatGPT and whatnot. It's writing code, right? Yeah. But if you don't know, like, if you know how to write code, you know how to build software, and you learn all these skills, and you have access to a tool like that, you could do a crazy amount of stuff. But if you don't have those baseline skills, you're not going to be able to, you are really not going to be able to do as much as like you could. So to me, I just think like generative AI is just going to make these skills that much more necessary to get the most out of these things. I have students that took 161, 162, they're business students, and they're making just those courses. Now, if they knew more, if they took more CS, they'd be even better, in better shape. But even with just like first year CS under their belt, they're making crazy software with the use of these tools. Absolutely crazy, where people like definitely marketable software. But you have to have some underlying skills to be able to do it. So don't let it spook you. To be clear, I can't predict the future. What do I know? But that's my guess. All right. Okay. Yeah. So for everyone who's like in another thing, all of these skills you're going to learn are going to be helpful. But the problem is, so often, like people don't know what they don't know, obviously, right? Like, I would have students that took like, if you've never done programming before, you don't really know what programming can do. If you do the programming and you take the courses, you get a sense of what you can do. Suddenly you are in your biology class, for example, and you're like, I could write a script to automate this and then generate way more data or blah, 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 right? That's stuff that you could do that other people can't. But you need those skills. So these skills are used everywhere. Okay, so why are the course notes a website? Well, we're learning Python. Now, look, really I'm teaching you core programming principles in Python. I'm not teaching you Python, but you are going to learn Python as a result of it. But I don't want you thinking like, oh, it's a Python course. It's an intro programming, intro CS course, and we're using Python. But the programming language that we use really doesn't matter. Now, I chose Python for a variety of reasons, and we'll talk about it, but there are a lot of other programming languages out there, all with different strengths and weaknesses. What I like about Python is it's pretty straightforward to get up and running, where other programming languages feel a little clunky. So Python's nice for that. But all right, so why is the course website, like why are the course notes a website? Well, one, I just like it. I think it's kind of neat. But with Python, all of like the documentation that goes with Python, so let's say like there's a fancy function, stuff you're going to learn all about that exists in Python, right? But you're like, I don't really know how to use it. Well, you would go read the docs, the documentation, like the manual, like a user's manual. And they're all going to look just like this website. They're built with the tool that I used to generate this website called Sphinx. They're going to look like this. So it just gets you used to looking at a website like this. So in other words, it gets you used to it. So here's an example. If I zoom out, I'll zoom out more. Yeah. It's got a different theme, but it's the same idea. So like here's like the math library. We're going to learn all about this shortly, so don't worry. I know this doesn't make a lot of sense yet, but it's full with a bunch of math functions, right? So if you go to like, what does fmod do? Well, it tells you, right? Everything you could want to know about this function. This is an example of what the documentation looks like. And the recording's going good. How will the class work? Well, I know a lot of you are in first year, so maybe you don't have a lot of experience yet, but I do like to break the lecture up and give you some activities from time to time, some of which will be programming activities. So if you do have your computer with you, great. What was that?
I was messing with the computer.
Okay, well, good job. What was I saying? Yeah, so I would like to give like lecture activities where people can kind of like try something that we just did like right then and there to hopefully help the idea reinforce a little bit. These are not like the written lecture activities that I was talking about. These would be like, oh, okay, quickly go write a little program to do this, right? And if you're the type of person that likes notes, pencil, paper, you don't want to have your computer with you, you don't have to, you could do all these activities with your pencil paper. Like it's entirely fine. But, you know, I do like to do that every once in a while. It just breaks the monotony of like a long lecture. Yeah, and at the end of each topic, I'll have linked to suggested readings relevant to what we just talked about. And like I was saying before, the only way to get good at this stuff is practice. You can watch every YouTube video there is. You're never going to learn it unless you do it. All right, so here's a fluffy activity, mostly because I actually do want you to get to talk to one another because I do want people to be working together in labs and activities and whatnot, so it's good to get to know a little bit of people. So really, just talk to each other I'm going to give you like 3 minutes to chat with each other, talk about things like, what are your majors? I mean, we kind of covered that, right? But like, why are you at St. FX? Why are you taking this class specifically? Did you hope to learn something or you just thought, what the hell, right? So like, talk. This room should be loud. I want to hear a loud room. Talk. All right. Just for the sake of time today, I want to make sure we get far enough. I'll cut it off now, but hopefully you got a chance to kind of chat a little bit, get a sense of what you want to know. Now, for another big question everyone wants to know, is this class easy? I got some bad news. It's definitely not easy, but look, I know I can stand here and say like, well, I don't think it's hard. I know, obviously, right? What a silly thing to say. But realistically, okay, so I'm going to be honest with you. Intro CS tends to have a very high attrition rate, a really high drop rate, and a rather high fail rate. But almost always, it comes down to the same fundamental problem. It's not that people just don't get it. It's that you just didn't, just practice. Seriously, just practice a little bit more. The people that aren't successful are the ones that just didn't do anything, right? You got to put in the effort. Putting in the effort is actually easy. You just have to do it. And then if you do it, you're going to be successful. And where people tend to struggle, and this, if you come to me and you say this, I'm going to tell you what I'm going to tell you right now. like, look, everyone here knows how to use a hammer, right? You know how to use a saw, a screwdriver. You know how to use all of these tools. And when we're learning these things, you're going to learn how to use these tools. You're going to learn how to use variables. You're going to learn how to use loops. All of these things you're going to know how to use. But the problem is, how many of you know how to build a house in full? No, you don't. So if you do that, like, this is where the complexity comes. It comes from putting these things together to solve a problem. Computer science is more than the underlying tools. It's the tools and how we use them to solve problems and understanding how to solve problems and approach these things. You're only going to figure this out by doing. So if you are getting to the test and you get to a point where you're like, I know all these things. As soon as he asks me to put them together, that's when I start to have a struggle. When he gives me a problem and I need to put them together, that's where I struggle. You just need to practice more. And there's a lot of practice resources. Just do it. A lot of people find they have a lot of fun with this stuff because when you're solving these problems, it turns into almost like a little bit of a puzzle. And I'm going to tell you something too. How many of you have seen in movies right, where, oh come on, load please, where the person's a hacker and then this is what you see. I don't know why the internet's so slow. You see and then they're like, oh, this is how they code, right? This is absurd. This is absolutely beyond the pale absurd. No one programs like this. The average, curses. Try again. Okay, yeah. Right? This is not what happens. Your average software engineer writes 5 lines of code a day, right? Now, why? There's a lot of reasons for that. Writing code, no one sits down and be like, I'm going to solve this problem. No. All of the work that you do, you need to solve the problem in your head or have an idea in your head before you start to write your first line of code. The programming is just the follow through of your solution. It's how you implement your solution. You have to have a solution. We're going to talk about all this as we go. Don't worry. But writing the code is not what we're doing here. It's the problem solving with the writing the code, right? Really, so there's a phrase, debugging. Raise your hand if you've heard debugging before, right? You know what it means, right? There's something wrong with it. I got to fix it. That really is programming. Is writing the code that takes a minute to write the code and then another 20 minutes of beating your head against the keyboard, that's programming. So people will come to me and be like, I've been working on assignment 1, I just can't get it, right? And I'm like, well, how long do you spend? They're like, 20 minutes. I'm like, yeah, come see me after 5 hours or something, right? It's going to take you a while. You need to be wrong. You're going to be wrong a lot. Programmer, and that's not because you're new programmers. That's just what programming is. My buddies in industry, working on Amazon, Facebook, and whatnot, yeah, they're wrong every single time before they're right. It's the way it is. So don't get discouraged when you're like, it's just not working. I know what it's like. I've seen it on TV. This is like a meme in programming, right? There's a reason this website exists, right? It's a joke. And that's not how it works. So if that's what you're thinking, your expectations are way wrong. And if you're thinking that, you're setting yourself up for failure. You're just going to get discouraged. You are going to be wrong a lot. But what's really cool about computer science, and this is fantastic, is let's say, look, you've all taken grade 11, grade 12 math, right? And you work through the problem. Okay, maybe it's a big problem, right? You write out your solution, yada, yada, yada. It's this page, and you're like, well, I hope it's right, and you submit it, right? Well, the best part of programming is you come up with your solution, and then you hit run. You'll know if it's doing what it's supposed to do or not. You will know if it's right before you even submit your assignment. It's phenomenal. Now, maybe little mistakes here and there, whatever, but you can know if you're right or wrong before you even ask me. It's awesome. It's a nice thing. All right, yeah, okay. So yeah, this is just to say each thing that you learn independently is probably you're gonna find nice bite-sized, easy to understand, but as soon as you start putting these things together, that's where people start to have difficulty. And the only way to get better is practice. So practice, 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 you'll be in great shape. Stay on top of it. This is also one of those courses, like, I know if you come from like let's say, like you're in history. I'm picking on history, but I'm just using it as an example. Let's say you're doing, like, this is a very technical field that's accumulative. And what I mean by that is, like, if you're in history, and let's say you screw off for the first month of history, and you're like, ah, crap, I got to get it together. And you're like, okay, time to start focusing, and you recover. Yeah, that's not going to work in this class. If you don't know what we did yesterday, you're certainly not going to know what we're doing today, and you're screwed for tomorrow. Like, you need to stay on top of it. You really can't let this stuff slip. None of everything I'm just saying right now is intended to scare you. That is the exact opposite of what I'm trying to do, though, okay? So understand, I'm just trying to make sure you've got the right frame of mind to ensure your success. I'm giving you every tool possible to ensure your success. You just have to actually do it. That's the hardest part, I know, but that's all you got to do. So should you be scared? No, right? Like, just put your effort in. You're going to do fine. The good news is you're going to make mistakes a lot. You're going to be wrong every time before you're right. Expect to be wrong dozens and dozens and dozens of times before you get it right. And that's not because you're new. It's because that's the nature of the beast. Sure, the software engineers, their problems are different than yours, fine, but it's the nature of the beast. Yeah. Yeah, okay. You get to see what worked and what didn't. Beat your head against the keyboard. It's luxury. I really can't stress this enough. Most of the time when you're working on the course material, you'll be getting things wrong. The majority of programming really is debugging. Get used to making mistakes. This is a good thing. This is normal. And then there's a nice little joke I saw a few years ago, right? Life before Google. I just thought of something I'd like to know more about. That's a shame, right? Because now you want to know anything, it takes 2 seconds to find it. You could find a solution on Google. You could find a thesis written on why doing something a certain way is a good thing. You can find YouTube videos describing everything. You can find anything. You can learn anything you want from Google now. It's insane. So the resources available to you are phenomenal. In fact, it is a joke in computer science. Who here, if you go to Moodle and you look at the little picture for the course, it's a joke. This is a common joke in computer science that oh, you have a computer science degree, you got a degree in Googling. Because that's what it is. When you are solving your problems, you're going to be like, okay, so what do I do in this situation? And I don't mean Googling and finding a solution, copy, paste. Obviously, that's not what I want you to do. If you think that's what I want you to do, get real. But you will find, and this might not make sense to you yet because we're still learning and we're getting there, but you will come across a certain problem and you're like, oh man, how do I go about doing such and such a thing? And you'll find ideas online that you can then go implement your own. Or even something as simple as how does a for loop work in Python? How do for loops work in Python? Great, we have what does it say? Does it not tell me how many, didn't it used to say 10 billions found, whatever. You can find, what do you want, a video? You want a Reddit post? Do you want IBM? Do you want real Python? What website do you want to see how a for loop works in Python? You can find anything.
W3 schools.
Whatever you want. You can find solutions to it in Python. When, it's a funny, students will ask me a question, let's say, right? And so if it's a question I can answer, great. Sometimes though, let's say it's a lab, you ask me a question, all right? And if I say to you, try Googling it. I am not dismissing your question. Do not think that for a second. I am not trying to dismiss what you're asking. I'm trying to get you to do what programmers do. That is a skill you need to develop, is how do I find the answer to this question? That is what programming is. That's why CS is a degree in Googling, because that's what you do. So if I tell you that, it's not me dismissing you. It's me saying see if you can figure this one out, because that's what programming is. Okay? All right, so yeah, what's available? Google, YouTube videos, email, Google office hours, Google Labs, Google. Yeah, why? Because like I just said, get used to Googling it. Yeah. Okay, can I write a program now? Sure. If you have your computer with you, here's what I want you to do. Open up a tab and do Colab. You just Google search Colab. The internet's being insanely slow for me right now. I'm guessing the internet's slow for everyone right now, probably because everyone's on it right now. Oh, give me a break. If this isn't working, we're in trouble. Here we go. I just Googled the word collab, like collaborate, but collab, okay? You go here, you click the link. If you have, then you open collab, whatever. If you have a Google account, you're already set. If somehow you've made it this far in life without having a Google account, congratulations, just make one. And if you have something ethical against Google and you don't want to make one, just make one for this class. It's easier for everybody. If that really is a problem, I can get you another solution, but it won't be as easy as this. You just go to this website. I'm going to hit like new notebook. You might have to log in. I hit new notebook. Loading. There. We now have, we're ready to go. Okay? We're ready to write code. Now this is Colab. It's a website. We're running code, this is effectively what we call a terminal. We are interfacing with it. All the code that's going to run is on some server somewhere else. It doesn't really matter. But you're going to type print. By the way, okay, you may not have line numbers turned on. You can go to settings, play around all you want. So you don't type the 1, by the way. I just have line numbers on there. I type print. Case is important, so lowercase print. Open parentheses, hello world. Okay, that's what we're going to do. That's what we're going to type. Okay. I'm going to hit run. The first time you hit run, it'll take a second because it has to like connect, but once it's connected, you're fine. I hit run, and we see the output, hello world. That's it. So I'll give you a second, see if you can get that going. Try to do this if you can. It's important. If you have to sign into your computer, don't worry about it right now. It's fine. But hello world, there we go. If you do this, if you aren't able to do it here right now, do it like today, later today when you can get a chance. Just go to this website, type print hello world. It's the simplest thing in the world. Print hello world there. We ran a program. That is a program. I know you're looking at this and you're like, yeah, it's simple, but it is a program. And you wrote it and you hit run and it worked. Did anyone hit run and it didn't work? No? What happened? You had a, yeah, but does it work now? There you go, right? Computers are picky though. If it's not exactly the way it needs to be, if the syntax is wrong a little bit, it's going to say like, I don't know what to do, right? If I say uppercase print, it's going to say, what the hell is print, right? And you're like, well, obviously I mean lowercase. It's not obvious to the poor computer. Cool, there we go. Now, there, if you did this, you wrote your first program. If this is the first time you are on Colab, chances are it has its like built-in generative AI turned on for you, so it'll try to like do a lot of code completion. Basically, like it'll try to write lines of code for you. And sure, that's cool and all. You're definitely going to want to turn that off though, because like you're learning how to write those lines of code, right? So you don't want it to do that. I'll show you how to do that in lab, so don't worry about getting it figured out right now, but you can play around in the settings to get that turned off. Any questions about anything we've seen so far? All right, that's a program. We can do other things. We can say print out the result of 5 plus 7, 12. Cool. We're going to learn a lot more. What's up?
I have my iPad. Will it work on that?
It should. Do you have like a keyboard for it?
I do.
Perfect. Yeah, it should work just fine on your iPad. I feel like I remember some people having some weird like rendering issues.
Yeah, for some reason it's not working.
Okay, we could look into that in the lab or something, but in worst case scenario, you should be able to log on to those computers and you can use the computers. Yeah?
Do you have quotations around the numbers? You want
No.
that for letters.
Ah, very good question. That we will not cover today, but I'll just do this for fun. Kind of a little hint there, but we will cover this, but good observation. That comes down to data types. And we are sadly out of time, but that's also basically it there. Cool. And here's the warning that I was talking about. If you haven't turned off, like turn off the generative AI, And there's some description in that link here how to do it. But we'll talk about that in lab tomorrow and Friday. Cool.